Sorry.
Jenny.
Let's see.
And there's letters from Sarah Ashton Roberts.
You guys
Okay,
keep
so we're
talking.
gonna-
I'm going to run back and grab something. Keep talking.
Okay. So we were talking about Sex Week, and that's the theme of our week this week on Anatomy of Marriage podcast. And whenever we talk about sex, we want to talk about it never in a weird way, never in a stigmatizing or a cultural, in a cultural kind of like.
Talk about it in a weird way, but
Well, yeah, but in a very helpful way, right? One of our things is like, how can we add value, right? And sex is a part of everybody's life, whether we like to talk about it, whether we don't like to talk about it, whether it's awkward, whether it's a normalized subject from our family of origin or whatever. We want to provide education, help, and very helpful tools, right? So this week is Sex Week, and we're talking about some stigmas. And today we wanted to talk with you, Dr. John, about sex as connecting and recharging, right? I think we all need to recharge our batteries during this time of COVID because everything's different, right? We're at home. All of us are homeschool parents now. We're doing telehealth. We're doing everything. Well, maybe not you guys in Tennessee because some stuff is opening, but Washington, we're still closed, right? We're still on stay-at-home orders.
yeah, Tennessee, this whole thing's just big liberal propaganda. So, cool, man.
Yeah.
Definitely. It's not real here, I guess. What? So weird, man.
Yeah, and that's a whole nother thing of, a whole like political stuff or whatever. But we want to talk about this in a way that is helpful to people. So, okay, sex as connecting, right? Sex as recharging. And I don't know about you, John, but Melanie's like, hey, why don't you and John have a conversation like what the male perspective is on that? And it's been said, and the research talks about this as sex for men. Like after sex, then then we feel connected, right? But for women, you have to feel connected and then have sex. You know what I'm saying? So it's a different way we get there for men and women. And not only personally, I don't know about you, John, but personally, that's how I feel. And even the research bears this out too. So let's talk about just the idea of sex is recharging. What do you think about that? Just right off the bat.
Yeah, I know the gender research is out there. I tend to look at it as it's a pretty intimate tool of connection that it just approaches people differently. I've worked with women who felt that that's how they plugged into folks, and I've worked with men who needed some more emotion there. But yeah, it's just the chief connection tool for so many folks, and it's the chief disconnection tool for others, right? And sometimes folks find themselves married to opposites that way, right?
Yeah, that's
can be frustrating.
I think that's a really good point, as it can be disconnecting for some people because, like with the addictive process, like either it's alcohol people use to check out, or it can be sex that somebody uses to check out. It's like a drug almost, when you have like sex addicts or pornography addicts or drug addicts or gambling addicts. It's a tool to check out, but that would be an unhealthy way to use sex. And of course, we want to promote healthy ways in this. So sex as a connection. So you got a little bit of the male perspective. What do you think about the female perspective around that, Mel?
Well, I don't know. I actually want to hear more about your thoughts about what you wish and let's just be very specific to you guys. Mm-hmm. What do you wish that your wives knew about the importance of sex to you? Mm-hmm. How about we just ask it that way?
Mm-hmm.
So I think there's, again, we're going to speak in broad generalities here, but I think that, as you mentioned earlier, Seth, it means different things to different people, but it just goes by the name sex for all of us, right? Mm-hmm. And so that goes back to something I harp on all the time, which is like thinking in pictures and speaking in words. When I've been with the same woman for a bajillion years now, but if she has this picture of guys and sex and this is what it means, and I don't know how to frame words like I'm lonely and I'm feeling disconnected, and this is the quickest way, this is the most efficient way, this is the way my body plugs in to be connected. Man, we end up talking past each other, and so wives can feel like they're married to perverts, words, and guys can feel like they're married to a dead person or to someone with no feelings and no connection because he's trying to say one thing and she's hearing another thing, or vice versa. And so, you end up just missing each other. And so the thing I wish that we could do was come up with a better language that was more, it meant more than just the physical act, right?
Yeah.
I wish that I had known language like, dude, I'm feeling super lonely, and I'm feeling disconnected from you. I wish we could connect. And then sometimes, and I wish there was a less crass way to say this. Sometimes people just want to get off. People just want to have a good time, and it doesn't have to come laden with all this emotional baggage to it. And we're friends, and we are married, and we're a partnership, and we just want to party. And so it means different things at different times for different people. Maybe that's the complexity of it all.
Yeah.
And so I wish there was a way that we could get married already knowing how to talk about this, having the vocabulary about it, so that it wasn't weird, because we do it with eating, and sometimes I want to enjoy an awesome meal, and sometimes I just want to go to Chick-fil-A, and sometimes I don't want to eat with you, and I want to eat with my friend. Like, it just doesn't have the same bad. Well, that got real dark.
Yeah, that got weird.
But,
keep it.
but sometimes we just don't have the same emotional baggage with eating, and since we never talk about sex with our kids, we don't talk about sex at church, we don't talk about sex with our friends outside of the act, man, it just comes with so much baggage with it.
So I want to challenge us right now that I love that concept. Let's figure out the ways that we can create intimate language like that, and just throw some ideas out. Like you said, I'm feeling lonely, or I just want to party, or whatever. Like, literally, let's brainstorm some more ideas around that right now, so that we can help people who are watching and listening gain language and gain ways to talk about this. We talked about this before when our kids were really little. Seth would say his usual line when he wanted to party with me is he would say, "I'd like to be together tonight," and he'd deliver it just like that. And I'm like,
Very
what
boring, I don't
does
know.
that mean? But what I figured out was, okay, he obviously wants to be together. If that's the case, and we had really little kids at the time, I said, I want relaxation sex. I want to be relaxed. I don't want to feel like I'm like mothering somebody else or having to cater to someone else's needs. So that was one, like, I want to relax with you, right? So let's think of language around that. So one of the ones you said was, I'm lonely, or I need to reconnect. What else could people use to say to their partners?
Well, I think it would be keen to pick up on key words, right? Like, I'm lonely. Like, okay, John's lonely. Let's sit together, and that's not really what you're meaning, right?
Yeah, and I wouldn't say those words now. That would be weird. I need to know that I need to admit to myself what I'm feeling, right? Because I tend to get caught up in my physiology. I get tense. I get nervous. I want to start like shooting anger off sideways, and I need to know enough about myself to know that means you're lonely, dude. And
Right. Here
are the two ways that I fix loneliness: is to physically intimately connect with my wife and to X, Y, and Z, right? So I need to be able to have a language for myself first.
Yeah.
I often don't. I often feel frustrated or pent up or angry or whatever, and then I come barreling in and want to solve that through sex, or I want to solve that through kicking the dog or whatever. That's not helpful for anybody either, right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So I think that going back to like, what do I wish I learned, because church doesn't teach it. Of course, culture, and certainly not pornography. It doesn't teach any of this stuff. So what can we learn to be connected to ourselves? Like, when I'm feeling this way, it's either like, what am I feeling in my body? Like you said, I'm tense or whatever. It's like, okay, I want to like be intimate with my wife, or kick the dog, which is like two very separate things, but the feeling is there, and it feels like you're like holding on to something hot. You're like, I don't want to hold on to this. I want to let go of it, right? So the language around that, maybe like, hey, I'm noticed myself kind of feeling stressed, and you know what? You're a great stress relief because I love you. We're best friends. We connect in this way. Let's talk and connect, and maybe other stuff too. That'd be great, kind of thing. So identifying the feeling in yourself, like, am I just hungry, or do I want to like be intimate? Because the feelings are different, right?
Well, to me, it all goes back to one central thing, which is we are so we're so terrified of rejection, even to the person that I've had, like that we've made human beings with, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
we've made humans, and I'm still nervous to get rejected by you. That's
Yeah.
insane clinically, right? That's nuts.
Yeah.
And she is still sensitive to how sensitive I am, and so sometimes she just wants to be able to go to bed. And if I put out the line of, I want to be together tonight, in my best robot voice, which, let's just be honest, Seth, for the rest of the time I know you, I'll probably say that every time we talk.
Dang it.
That she feels like now she's like been forced into this binary choice: either do what he wants and not what I want, or I want to do what I want to do, and now I got to deal with him being a pouty brat for the next, right? And so, the best book, and it's not a Jesus book by any means, is this book called "Come as You Are" by Emily Nagoski. I don't know if you read that.
Oh yeah.
But the idea of getting out of the act and getting out of even the conversation of, like, tonight is the night for us, and backing up even before that and setting up an environment where you can turn on the ons and off the offs, like, it just as a way of being. And then my life becomes about hospitality for my wife. Like, what are the ways that I can make her life just more awesome today?
Yep.
And if she will enter into that same space thinking that same way about me, dude, that kind of takes care of itself a lot more than it
Yeah.
did
That
in previous life. Does that make sense?
Oh, it makes perfect sense. In fact, we had a conversation on the show this morning about what I can give Melanie is, because she's a primary stay-at-home mom. We're all stay-at-home right now anyway, but typically when we're in normal situations, she's a stay-at-home mom with 3 kids at home. So she's being touched and talked to all day, right? She doesn't want more touching and talking to necessarily. She wants time away. So if I as a husband can have the wisdom to say, you know what? If I'm wanting this, if I know that this is important for me later to connect with her and it's helpful for me in my marriage, then I'm going to give her what she needs. And that's emotional kind of quiet and solitude right now. Hey, I'm going to take the kids to the woods. You chill out for an hour and a half. I got supper taken care of. Go, and then when we come back together, she'll be like, oh, okay, yeah, the idea of being touched by you is a great idea, of talking and connecting to you. And it's like, and I know you're familiar with this, John, that Zig Ziglar quote that Dave Ramsey talks about all the time, help enough people get what they want, and then you'll get what you want, So if I find recharging and connection through intimacy with my wife, that's what I want, that's what I need, then I'm going to help her get what she needs in other areas, But yeah, so that's just, I love that idea.
No, right? I mean, it is frustrating. I wish, I wish we could get past the fear of rejection. I wish that we could just say what we wanted to say in the ways that we wanted to say it, and that we each had the grace to hear it as the person was saying it, not how I'm filtering it through. And we wish that we could have permission to be as honest back and forth too.
Yeah.
That'd be awesome.
One of the things that you say when you're saying that idea of the fear of rejection, what comes to my mind is that when people are going to be intimate together, it is literally like a merging of energies. And if you are going to your wife and saying, and your energy is, don't reject me, don't reject me, don't reject me, right? And that's what she's going to connect with. So I think there's a lot to say about how we put ourselves in a mental state, control our energy, figure out what we need to do to make that connection more meaningful and more enjoyable for everybody. Because we don't want to have a battle of energies. We want to have a merging of energies that is rejuvenating and helpful.
And when you're talking about energy, it's like the vibe. You know how you feel a vibe in the room, like, oh, this person's chill, or they're kind of like
Put out the vibe, dude. Yeah.
putting out the vibes, sit at the bar. I think that's the
Just putting out the vibe.
yeah. I think that's the second or third time we've referenced Dumb and Dumber here, with you specifically.
But I don't know. I think that's important. And also, like you're saying, it's almost like that serendipitous exchange idea where if I can give you what you want, you will give me what I want. Not in a weird way. But that's like a matching of, or an awareness of empathy. Like, not, so let's say I want to be intimate and you're not in that headspace. Well, what's important for you right now? Do you need to read for a minute or rest or take a shower? I don't know. What's important to you? And get out of our own head and only see our tunnel vision of what sex and intimacy means to us and make it a you and me type of vibe. Does that make
Right.
sense? Like broadening, because it's an energy that we're bringing, but we need to broaden it to be an energy that we are now having versus just I am bringing or
Right.
you are bringing. That
we
makes
just got to get out of the awkwardness of it all, because that's been the greatest gift, is just to take all the drama out of it and not the mystery. The mystery's fun, but it's more fun when it's intentionally mysterious, right? Like, hey, let's set up an evening of mystery and intrigue. Now I know what I'm getting into, and it's not this passing of the, I was just thinking you wanted relaxation and sex, and no, I was thinking you wanted, like, whatever. And then it becomes this madhouse of missed frustrations, and I thought this is, and we thought that. One of the things that Nagoski talks about that I love is she said, somehow the idea of scheduling it or being direct with one another, especially in advance, has somehow taken on this tenor of its lack of spontaneity is suddenly not romantic. And she said, I can't think of anything more romantic than scheduling you into my day and intentionally hearing your crazy needs and however bizarro and nutty they are, and making space in my soul for that. And when that reframe for me was so like, hey, I think this week we need to just get crazy. Okay, cool. I'm going to need 48 hours for that to get my head right, and I'm going to need to not be around my kids for the next 48, whatever that looks like. And that's not less romantic. In fact, I think the idea of planning for it and making space for you is the single most romantic thing I can do for you. But it's just switching your head around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what it makes me think of is this idea that I think people often think of sex as being, like as one task in a day that you need to do, or you should, or whatever, do, or within a week or whatever. I'm not saying every day, but they think of it like a thing you check off. Like,
Every day.
I mean, like it has no relationship to anything else. It's the same as cleaning up a room, right? But I think for a lot of people who don't have that, what is it? Not responsive, but the instant sex drive. What is it called? Emily Nagoski. Spontaneous. So people who have that responsive desire need foreplay. And we talked about this earlier. Foreplay is the fun that comes before sex. So foreplay, before
the
play,
play.
right? It's fun that's before sex, right? And I challenge our listeners, talk to your spouse throughout your day via text. If you're nervous to do that, we actually have an app that we helped co-create called Just Between Us. And it is literally a texting app where these are encrypted, they're secured, no one else can see them, so you're not going to accidentally text your boss like something naughty, right? But I challenge, don't text Dave something naughty.
Don't text Dave something.
But I challenge you, talk to your partner about sex throughout the day, and don't tell me by the time they come home from work that you're not ready to take a roll in the hay.
Right.
It is very...
Or really early is not happening.
Yeah,
you
right.
Can adjust yourself, right? And I think where I see folks get out of whack is, like, I get in my head at 8 o'clock on the way to work, like, dude, we're going to party tonight. And by the time tonight rolls around, dude, the things that we're going to do are going to be a madhouse. And the sucky part is she has no idea.
Right.
No idea. And I've had 10-hour head start on this deal. And then it's like, oh, what? Oh, okay, well, let's get the kids to bed. And then dude.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's just being upfront with each other.
Yeah, I love that.
If anybody listening, I'd love to know if y'all are brave, if you have any questions about this. I'm
Right.
fascinated. My therapist friends either have the most, like, direct and, like, open sex lives, or they are so dysfunctional it's, like, hilarious. It's just a walking train wreck at all times.
Yeah. It's really funny. Just because we know about this stuff doesn't mean that. I mean, we try to practice it, but yeah. It's funny. It's just living real life, basically.
Yeah.
What are ways that you guys have overcome the communication barrier? What are ways you've kind of just taken the drama out of that and become more on the same page?
Talking about it all the time, like talking about it on the show, answering people's questions. sitting, because we're so not used to that as a culture, especially Christian culture. You don't talk about sex unless I was raised Catholic. If you're talking about sex, you're in a confessional and you're going to hell. Like, you're not talking about sex because it's a good thing, right? The Catholics are hardcore. But we just having to talk about this over and over and all the time. And we have interviewed sex therapists. We've had sex therapists on our show to try to normalize it. And another really helpful thing, which sounds really silly, is teaching our kids about their bodies. Saying the words out loud, not calling them funny nicknames. It desensitizes you to it in a good and healthy way that helps you have normalcy around it.
Yeah. So John asked what has been helpful for us, and I'm thinking just being direct about it, because one awesome thing that you said, yeah, I can be like, yeah, in the morning, oh yeah, tonight it's going to be, mind blowing, and then by the time I get home, there's more of a possible letdown because she hasn't been thinking about it, but I've had all day to think about it. And that letdown piece. So if we can, one of our good friends, Dr. Corey Allen of Sexy Marriage Radio, talks about sex starts in the morning. Foreplay starts in the morning. And if we're intentional about that in the morning, then she has all day to think about it. I have all day to think about it. And then we're on the same page emotionally, so we can get on the same page physically later on. You know what I'm saying? So just having a real conversation about it has been so helpful. Not in a... Well, I mean, people can talk about it however they want. I was going to say not in a raunchy way, like, oh, yeah. But if that's what you do with your wife or husband, that's fine. That doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But just whatever works for you.
And I think another thing that's really been important for us is removing the emotions that aren't... Like, Seth might say to me, I want to do this. And I will have an emotional response that he has no idea is coming because I have some sort of past experience with that, or I thought that thing was really bad, or whatever it is. I mean, who even knows? But so trying to remove your sort of knee-jerk reaction to stuff and ask yourself, why am I so upset about this? Why does it make me mad that Seth says, I would like to be together? Why am I getting so weird about this? But really being like, I need to be an adult about the fact that something makes me feel something, but that doesn't mean I need to act on it. So kind of navigating your feelings around sex and intimacy, because sometimes, especially in the Christian space, so many women are shamed to death. They're like, I want to be sexy for my husband, but I have been trained that this is wrong for 25 years of my life, and I don't know what to do. So figuring out how to kind of take apart any really negative feelings we have and really examine them for what they are has been really, really helpful as well.
And giving each other just permission to say, I don't know. Like, man, the pressure to not say the words, I don't know, or we could try, or, I mean, I did that with baking cookies the first time I tried to bake my own cookies, and I didn't, my wife just sat there in the kitchen and laughed so hard.
No, you're frozen.
Kind of froze for a minute.
Wait.
Okay.
She gives me permission to do that with cooking, or with, like, I don't know how to fix a car, let's go try to fight, with everything else, but that one little thing, right? And it's got so much pressure. And I think guys have the other pressure of, you're never allowed to say no, you have these comic performance standards, you're never allowed to be tired, you're never allowed to be frustrated, you're never allowed to be anything. And we especially don't know how to use words to ask for things in a polite and like respectful way.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just a recipe for a train wreck, man.
Yeah, it is. So clear communication, normalizing things like this, and talking with your spouse, and also giving each other permission to make mistakes, to be weird, to be awkward, and like, hey, I'm not going to judge you for a mistake that you made or whatever, or if you feel awkward, or if you feel reserved about this, like, hey, let's grow together in this, because guess what? You're my person. We talked about this morning too. You're my person. You're my best friend. Let's make this awesome in every aspect of our marriage, not just sex, of course. Let's make this awesome and really be as a team about it.
And
so, go ahead.
I want to just throw out this idea of a reframe that's been really helpful for me, especially as we have little kids, and sometimes I feel touched out as a mom, but I know that Seth really actually wants just physical connection, and that kind of thing is rejuvenating for him. But it's helped me find my place of sort of empowerment and the desire to be with Seth. If I can say, you know what, I'm going to look around at my house. Seth paid for this house. He paid for my van. He pays for my food. He is a good husband. I can thank him the best way I know how to thank him is with my body. And I know that sounds weird, but I mean, it really is. Like, what else do you want me to vacuum a room, or would you rather?
I don't really
be
care
with
about
me
vacuuming
tonight?
as much as I care about other things,
Right?
If you know what I mean.
And
So,
for me, it's a very empowering place. It's it feels like that is encouraging to me. So I'm just gonna throw that idea out there for women if they don't know.
that's interesting.
feeling.
If you guys have questions about that, email us at hello@anatomyofmarriage.com or email Dr. John. Well, I put you on the spot, John, but what's do you mind if people have questions? They send you an email about that?
No, not at all. I answer it. And man, I've been really, it's been surprising how many sex-related calls I've got on for the radio show. It's been, I would say, relatively overwhelming. It's been pretty neat. People are willing to trust like that. But it tells me that it's on everybody's mind and that it's just, they just don't know what to do with it. And there's so much expectation, all just compressing it in so many different ways. And there's just not a normal, everybody lies about it. And so nobody trusts anybody, so then they just go to porn. And that's certainly not it.
Right.
And so it just turns into a mess. And so the more people who can just be open about it and talk about it, the best, right?
Yeah, I think so. And as long as we can provide outlets to start those conversations, then we're all doing a good thing. So before we go, for wherever people want to find stuff that you do, where can they go?
You can email me directly at AskJohn@Ramsey Solutions, and you can just follow me at John Deloney's.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And
real quick, what's the most common sex-related question y'all get?
let's see.
Unfortunately, it's usually about a husband looking at pornography, but I guess that's not quite sex related.
Yeah, that one's one of them.
Or trying.
That's so like. Unfortunately, it's.
Well, you got to be serious. You got to be to the point here.
Well, I think one thing is about how people can have better sex lives.
Yeah.
And not just going through the motions like, oh, it's all about for the guy, or the woman feeling like, yeah, I know that this is important for my husband, but I don't feel that emotional connection, and just ways to...
Well, I think if we whittle down what it is, people are typically asking a question that gets to the point of, I really want to have better sex, but I don't know where to turn, who to ask, where to look. Good Lord, if I Google it, it's not going to be a good idea. That's really what it ends up being, because people don't realize, like I said to myself a couple years ago, I will not have bad sex. I won't do it. That does not mean if Seth wants sex and I'm not in the mood, I won't have it. That means if Seth wants sex, I'm not in the mood, I have to figure out how to get myself in the mood for great sex, because I won't have bad sex.
And to be
right?
intentional
And to be
about it,
intentional about it. And so people are basically asking, how do I get to that place? What do I do? Is there something I can do? Do I have to read something? You know, like what do I do to have amazing sex? Because I think everybody wants that, and everyone thinks it's not attainable. So that's what most of our questions are actually pointing at, but they're kind of hidden in a different pocket of where the person is at that time. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and I think the other, that's really fantastic. And I think that the other myth is that guys just want it. And I've never met a guy that doesn't just want it. The guys want her to want it too, right? Otherwise, it's a mismatch of energy. Like you said, it's just lame. It's not good.
Yeah.
And so, how do you both get to a place where you're both interested in it? Not all the time, 24/7, but how do you get to a place where it's like a destination for everybody?
Right. Dr. John Gottman, I'm sure you're familiar with his work. He does a lot. He's one of the leading characters in the marriage space.
It's kind of a hack, but whatever.
Yeah, it's just like, I don't know, 35 years of research, whatever. But he was talking about in a
textbooks, whatever.
New York Times bestseller. But we went and we've seen him a couple times. But he talked about if one person wants to have sex and the other one doesn't, then the idea of having sex with a person that doesn't want to is just atrocious to him. He's like, if she doesn't want it, no, I'm not going to have sex. Why would I do that? And then I just thought about that. I was like, that is so true. It's like making a kid eat their broccoli or something like that. You're like...
Everyone suffers.
Right. Everybody suffers, and it's not as connecting. It's not as deeply connecting, and it's not as emotional as it could be. So, yeah, how can we get all the time like, hey, we both want to connect and we both want to have connection and pleasure out of this. One of our favorite ladies, one of my old professors, who's going to be on the show tomorrow, Dr. Tina Shermer Sellers, is a sex therapist, and her main thing is sex as connection and pleasure.
Yeah. Not orgasm,
Right.
not any of those things. Connection and pleasure.
That's right.
Nothing else. And it's amazing when you look at it through that lens. But for me, one of the things you're talking about, how do we get to that place of matching energies? I had to kick my own butt because I was the one sort of never in the mood. And there's lots of reasons. I will say, like, kids, they're a reason. A dirty house. I had to kind of go through my list of what is stopping me from connecting with my husband, because he's the only person I can do this with. And he is certainly not allowed to go do this with somebody else.
Right.
So how can I match that energy and honor that relationship in a way that feels good to me as well? It's not just the sort of biblical trope of like honor and obey, respect and whatever. Like, I'm not going to do that.
Well, no,
Or I'm going to
that's
do
good,
it.
but you're going to do it in
I'm
a
going to do
healthy
it
way.
excellently, right? I'm not going to do it begrudgingly, if that makes sense. And so a lot of it was kicking my own butt and being like, oh, you're a little bit tired. So what? Wake up, have a coffee, do some push-ups, take a cold shower, whatever. Like, how hard is that for you to be like, you can love your husband in this way, have an amazing time in this way, but not if you let, I go back to Jocko Willink. Tired doesn't get a vote. Angry doesn't get a vote. Lazy doesn't get a vote, right? So sometimes it literally is kick yourself in the butt. That's what you got to do. And I'm not saying this in an abusive way. Like, Seth is not my Lord and I do everything for him. But
No.
again, I don't have bad
But
sex.
it works the other way, though, that, like, Seth, you mentioned right when we started was, what are ways you can take care of the house, and what are ways you can get the kids out of the thing? So it's working on both. Like, everybody's bringing their best to the table. And it's just such a weird thing. If everybody brings their best to the table, the result is awesome sex. I don't, like, they seem to miss that.
I know.
Right.
Like, it's not like, we're all gonna, it's not like, it's kinda, like, if we just scratch and save for the next 3 years, we're gonna finally get that new roof. It's not that.
Yeah.
It's like, we get to party.
Right.
Whatever.
Yeah.
And so, it's just, totally reframing it. Like, the end result of this deal is super dope if everybody's in on it all the way, right?
Yeah,
Right.
and that comes from hard work, because it's not easy. We have to unlearn a bunch of crap that we learn from culture and movies and pornography and all kinds of stuff. We have to do the work to unlearn that. It's just like if we had really...
Did we talk about Romeo and Juliet last time?
No.
No.
Like, I heard this about 2 months ago, a month ago, and it blew my mind. It was like, somebody, it was an MD asked, what is the single most, like, romantic relationship of all time in our culture? And it's like, it's Romeo and Juliet. And this is a totally atheist, secular MD, and was like, two teenagers who got married, slept together, and then killed each other. That is, and they were like 14. That's the picture of modern romance that we're all aiming for.
Right.
Here in my late 30s, 40s. What happened? How did that, you know what I mean? Like, that's insane. Yeah, The Notebook. How is that the objective, right? And so it's just getting rid of all those wackadoo myths and pictures.
Yeah.
And saying, dude, we signed up for this, so why do we not make it as awesome as humanly possible?
Yeah.
Exactly. And it's unlearning. Just like if I'm going on a new financial journey, if I had terrible financial habits from my family of origin, I'm going to throw all that out of the window and learn the baby steps and, and get disciplined with money. So we can even think like a great marriage takes work. A great marriage takes discipline. Just like if I want to have a nice body, I watch what I eat. I'm disciplined in my workout. I'm disciplined in my water content, all this stuff, So
Well, I talked
just
about
takes
it.
work.
I talked about it yesterday being like an investment. Our sexuality is something we invest into something. We can either invest it into pornography and have no return on investment, or invest it into our marriage in an amazing, with compounding interest way, and have a flourishing, amazing. Like, it isn't saving up money for a new roof. It's saving up your sexual energy and all of that for an amazing party time or sexual relaxation or whatever.
Right.
I could have so many conversations about this.
If you look at in fact, I just left a meeting. I'm working on a book here at Ramsey, the derivative neurochemical benefits and the biophysical benefits, it's in every cell of your body.
Right.
And so the ROI on, like you said, investing in great relational sex changes everything. So that's the new thing. Stop being like 400-year-old suicidal teenagers. How about that? That's the new slogan.
Is that the name of your book?
Right.
Yeah, that's the name of the book. Don't be a suicidal teenager from the 1700s.
Right.
Have great sex and live longer. I don't know how we screwed this up so bad in
Right.
this culture. We just messed it up. But
Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah.
thanks for talking to me about sex from your bedroom.
Right.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you, John, again for joining us on Tuesdays. And yeah, you guys go check John. Are you on the Ramsey Show full 3 hours on Thursdays now?
Most Thursdays. I think I'm on Friday this week.
Okay, yeah.
And then I'm working on my own show. So if you've got, email me at askjohn@ramseysolutions.com and I'll call you. We're recording.
Cool. And one last thing. What size are you in Filson? I'm just wondering. I'm asking for a friend.
Medium.
Thought so. All right, man.
Dude, hey, if you go, we'll Instagram live,
Oh.
and I'll Venmo you all the money.
Well, don't.
Plus a finder's fee, dude. Yes.
That's going to be so fun. We're going to have to do Instagram Live Filson shopping.
Yeah. Well, you can't go in there. They're doing curbside pickup at the flagship store now, so you can't go in.
It'll be
but-
open soon. We'll
maybe,
figure
yeah,
it out.
so-
Before we...
That is fun before the pleasure, or whatever. Yes.
That
is
was
right.
funny.
That is right.
All right. Well, thank you so much. And
Everybody go have great sex. Y'all take care.
right.
All right, man.
Bye.
Bye.